Hello, welcome to Garbage Time. This is an all things NBA podcast. I guess I'm the host. My name's Kevin.
I'm Justin.
Ryan.
Yeah, so basically we're just huge basketball fans, and we spend a lot of time talking about it. So we thought we would try to record our conversations and try to put them out there. I don't think we want to spend too much time with an introduction. We're starting a little bit late into the season, so I think there would be kind of a lot to cover if we wanted to do like a full season review. So I think we wanted to narrow things down a little bit and start things off by just saying what like our all-star teams would be right now, based on like what has happened so far this season since voting has just opened up. So Justin, you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. So we'll start off with the West, and then we'll move over to the East. So for me, my West starters, my captain is Steph. I think to me that's a pretty easy choice. He's maybe not the front runner for MVP with the struggles, but that he's had recently. But I still think that he's a pretty clear cut captain. And then joining him in the backcourt, I have Devin Booker, and then my front court is LeBron. Rudy Gobert, which I was like, I wasn't sure who I wanted in the front court. So LeBron, Gobert, and Jokic.
Okay, my team's pretty similar actually.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Mine is different.
Okay, yours is different.
Let's hear your
Okay. So mine.
Who's your captain?
Yeah.
My captain. I also had Steph as the captain, mainly because it's going to be either Steph or LeBron, and LeBron's always captain, so it's like it's just boring.
Okay, so
LeBron's the captain.
I'll say this: we all have different starting lineups. Then
Okay.
we all have different starting lineups.
So my starting lineup at guard is Steph. Paired with him is I have Chris Paul.
Okay.
With him.
All right.
LeBron James in the front court. I got Draymond. In the
Oh, you have
front court.
Draymond. Okay.
Yeah, and then Jokic.
You have Jokic.
Is the final front court.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Our teams are relatively similar.
Okay.
I have the same backcourt. I've got Steph and Chris Paul.
Okay.
Look, as much as I dislike Chris Paul, I kind of feel like I'm giving him the benefit here because he's the leader of the team. Mm-hmm. Even if Booker is like the number one option on offense, I don't know how to explain. I think, yeah. So I decided to give it to Chris Paul.
It feels like when we watch him play,
Yeah.
like anytime, like in the fourth quarter, they need a bucket. It's Chris Paul they're going to. It feels like
Yeah.
more so than Devin
He's
Booker.
clutch.
Yeah, it's similar to the Rockets where it felt like Chris Paul was kind of the alpha of the team, even though Harden was the better player.
He's clearly the best player in that team, but it felt like Chris Paul was the guy.
I think they're kind of a 1A, 1B sort of thing, it feels like. So I decided to give it to Chris Paul, and then I've got LeBron, and then I also did Twin Towers, so I did Rudy and Jokic in mine. So basically my team is like a mix of yours and Ryan's.
Yeah. I was going back and forth. I had a few guys that I was looking at in that guard spot.
I did too.
If the Grizzlies weren't as good as they were without Ja, I think I would have seriously considered him. But he missed a lot of time, and that CP. I was back and forth with him and Book. I think Booker's shooting the ball really well.
Yeah.
Just going off the numbers, like it's probably Booker.
Yeah. So, but I'm not really mad if Chris Paul makes. Well, I don't like Chris Paul, so I guess I'd be mad about that. But I wouldn't be mad at that choice because I was heavily debating. I considered Donovan, but I considered
all those guys too.
I thought I thought Gobert plus Donovan in the starting lineup was a little too much.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And then I'm surprised none of us chose Luka, but to me, he's having a down year, and the Mavs just aren't that good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to make it. I think he'll be one of the starters. He's so popular. He's going to make the starting team.
I do have him on my team.
Yeah. But he's going to make the starters.
But he's a guard, though, is the problem. So
so he'd make it over Booker or Chris Paul.
Okay.
Chris Paul or Booker or
I would assume
Ja or...
I know he's popular, but
I actually could see Ja making it.
He's a fun guy to watch.
I could see Ja... if it was just the fan vote, I think Ja would have a better shot. But because they also have, like, the coaches and the players...
I don't know. I think Luka is going to end up getting the other starting spot. But... let's move on to the reserve.
I feel like people have soured on him.
So the one other difference I think I had was I had Draymond. Because I think Steph, LeBron, and Jokic, I think we're all pretty...
We all had them.
We all agreed on that. I had Draymond in there as the starter. I know he's not like the numbers honestly, like, it feels like his impact with the Warriors just feels like so strong.
Should we qualify this that Draymond is a bit of a homer pick?
It is a homer pick.
Draymond's a bit of a homer because we're Warriors fans.
I think so. I guess it's important to state. So we didn't include Paul George and AD as eligible players since they're hurt most likely.
Yeah, I didn't include them on my team.
I think that changes a lot. The front court depth in the West is actually pretty weak for the All-Star ballot.
Yeah, because you don't have Kawhi either. Without them and Kawhi, that's a big hit to the front court in the West.
Yeah. So going to my reserves too, my front
I struggled.
court
I was struggling with the finish filling out the front court.
I had a couple interesting picks in my front court because of that.
Yeah.
All right, you want to move to the reserve?
Well, I think the context with why I took Draymond was just how good the Warriors' defense is. Yeah, like it's been kind of.
I understand.
It's been the center point of the team, so that was kind of. I just put it in there.
I understand that point, but Gobert's just putting up better numbers, and he's still one of. I mean, he's the best rim protector in the league by a wide margin, and it. I don't put a ton into like the advanced metrics and stuff, but Gobert just like demolishes all those numbers. So
wait, did you guys did who you think should or who you think will?
I did should. I thought this is who deserves to make it.
I almost feel like I kind of did a little bit of both when I was making mine.
Yeah.
Like because like I don't want Chris Paul to make it, but I feel like he kind of should.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I did who I.
I mean, the fact that people are putting him in the MVP conversation a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like he's got the popularity too.
I mean, honestly, I might have just put Booker because I just like Chris Paul. I don't know.
I was tempted. I was close to putting Booker instead of Chris Paul.
I ultimately went with the stats. Yeah. Booker just got better stats.
That they do pay attention to that.
Yeah.
When they're
but people like Chris Paul, so
yeah. I went with the impact.
Yeah.
For Chris Paul. You want to say?
I think Draymond also impact.
Yeah.
Just his impact on the Warriors.
Yeah.
It almost at times feels greater than Steph.
We just saw Rudy. He had a pretty big impact today.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gobert was pretty good.
Yeah.
Today.
But it is weird I feel like he's not the flashiest player, Gobert. So it's kind of weird for him to be a starter.
To be honest, I don't really like Draymond or Rudy playing in the All-Star game. Like I think they deserve it because of the impact they have on their teams. Well, but they're just not fun at all to watch in the All-Star game.
Some of the positional limitations because Luka's big enough to be a forward. So if you could put Luka as that other front court player, that makes it a lot easier.
Actually, Luka is bigger than the other two of my forward reserves.
Yeah. All right, let's
get to the reserves.
Yeah. So my reserves. So my two guards I had, and I don't know if this is in any order necessarily, but so I have Luka, Donovan, and then I have Draymond and Cat as my front court.
Okay.
Or sorry, Draymond, Cat, and Wiggins. So there's my homer pick, Andrew Wiggins, and then I had Ja and Chris Paul rounding out my bench.
Okay. Ryan, you want to say yours?
So for mine, I have. For guards, I got Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker. For the forwards, I got Wiggins, Cat, and Gobert. And then for the wild cards, I got Luka and Ja.
Did all of us pick Wiggins on our All-Star team?
I think so. I was kind of...
Okay, well,
you know, I actually didn't really want to put him there. I would have if it weren't for the injuries.
It was such a weak... I mean, it was like, who are you going to put in there? Like Mikal Bridges or like...
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel great about any of the other forward options.
Yeah. Honestly, if I would have put him as the wild card if I was going to put him in there. He doesn't really like put up the numbers to really deserve an All-Star appearance.
Like he's been good, but I don't know. He still doesn't feel like he's an All-Star, even though he's been good this year. I know Clay thinks
that one's more like we would like for him to be in the All-Star game, but
probably I don't think he deserves it. I just
probably doesn't deserve it.
I don't think there's anyone better. If you could have more backcourt players, I think that like you left off Dame also. Like I didn't have Dame's. Kevin, you can go through your list. I don't know. You might have him.
I don't have Dame.
Okay.
Here's mine. I've got Booker, Donovan, Ja, Draymond, Ayton, Luka, and Wiggins.
I'm giving Ayton instead of Cat.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'm rewarding the winning.
Yeah.
I'm rewarding the winning and giving
the
it to
Suns
Ayton
and the Warriors both have 3 All-Stars.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's fair.
I'm not mad at that. I gave the nod to Cat because he's putting up really impressive numbers.
He's been super efficient. And
the Timberwolves are in the playoff race, so...
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was worth rewarding.
I kind of went back and forth on Cat or Ayton. I decided to go Ayton.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Aiton's,
Yeah.
much better defender. So
Yeah. It's kind of weird because like Cat has more of a star player skill set, but I feel like Aiton helps you win.
he does.
So in a vacuum, I think you take Cat, right? In a vacuum, I think he's the better player, but like for what the Suns need, I think Aiton is much better.
Yeah.
It's probably a little blasphemous for me to put Luka as the wild card.
That doesn't matter. I don't think
But-
that position thing really matters.
Yeah, I don't think that's a huge deal, but
I mean, I kind of put Donovan and Devin in because, like,
Yeah.
stats-wise, I feel like those three are like
Yeah.
kind of close.
I
in
didn't
terms
really
of
go
stats.
in any order with my reserves.
Yeah,
I
I
just listed 7 reserves and checked the positions to make sure I got it
they're
right.
actually eligible.
I kept track of who's the wild cards, who were the guards and forwards. So.
But to me, the front court depth was so weak.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I have
normally-
4 guards. I have 4 guards on my
me too.
reserves.
I wouldn't normally have Wiggins
same.
I wouldn't have Wiggins or Cat in my All-Star team normally.
Me
but
neither.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would probably have Kawhi or
Kawhi, Paul
PG,
George, and or
AD.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Clay was healthy too, he'd be
Well,
probably.
but isn't he a guard?
Yeah, no, but like he's another
But
guy
yeah,
who like makes it
right.
feel like some of these guys don't.
I'm surprised
You
no
know-
one had Dame. Again, a guy who's not having a great
He's having a
season.
down year. The
And the
Blazers are
Blazers suck.
terrible. Like
Yeah.
they're 14th in the West.
Yeah. It's just crazy because it's Dame
Yeah,
Lillard.
he just doesn't
What's
look
he
right.
averaging right now?
I don't know what his numbers are, but he
23
just
or 24.
Yeah.
When I've watched him, he just doesn't look right out there. Something just doesn't look right when I watch him play.
Yeah, and I think you have to reward the winning. Like, I get that it's Dame, but like everyone loves Dame, but
And like you look at like what Jaw's doing right now,
And the Grizzlies are good.
and they're good, and he's having like a kind of a breakout year. It feels like Luka's just like he's just more impactful, I think, than
that was the thing is
Lillard.
you get 4 guards, and that's you take both the wild cards for guards.
Yeah.
Like I don't have Dame over Luka, Donovan, Ja, or Chris
Book.
Paul, or
Devin.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
Booker. I don't think you could put him over it because Steph's like a given, right?
Yeah.
As a starter.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think you could really put Dame over any of those guys with the way he's played this year. Last year, Dame, yeah, like any of the last few years, you could put Dame in there, but not the way he's playing this year.
Yeah.
Okay, our teams are pretty similar. It seems like
Yeah.
we kind of just rearranged. We had mostly the same players, just rearranged. I think the main difference was that I had Ayton and you guys did not.
In terms of the total 12, that was the only difference.
Yeah, I think so. But we just kind of had different.
Yeah.
We had different players.
Starters were slightly
Oh, I
different.
never named my captain. I kind of went back and forth on Steph and LeBron. I think the Warriors' reemergence. I think you give the edge to Steph.
That was what I was thinking, but LeBron's so popular.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
might just get it out of that. I don't
That's
know.
true.
And what he's been doing is impressive, considering he's 37 and he's carrying a pretty.
It just sucks because
subpar-
LeBron's going to choose the better team again.
If he ends up being the yeah, his team's gonna stomp KD's team probably if KD's the. Oh, sorry, spoilers.
that was my pick anyway.
Yeah.
Should we move on? I don't know if
Yeah.
there's really much more to say
No,
about this.
I think-
It's because of all the injuries. I feel like there's not going to be many like guys who feel like, oh, they should have made it. It feels kind of non-controversial, right? If Kawhi and PG and AD were healthy and Clay were healthy, then I'd feel like this would be much more interesting.
Yeah.
But it's just not because
I mean,
those guys
and
are.
Zion, right?
Oh yeah, that's another guy.
Yeah.
That's a huge front court player.
Yeah.
that we're, well,
Who's
literally-
not
he's
even-
literally huge.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the East. So yeah, I have KD as my captain. I don't think that's really a shocker. And then my starters are Trey Young, DeMar DeRozan, KD obviously, Giannis, and Embiid.
Okay, so mine's a little different.
Okay.
So for my captain, I put KD. For the guards, I said Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant, Giannis, and Joel.
Okay.
So
I kind of like it. It's a little different.
You want Levine instead? I debated putting Levine in the starters. I ended up going with the same starters as Justin.
Okay, so Trey, DeRozan, KD, Giannis, Embiid.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Trey, like he's got the numbers, but like
The Hawks aren't-
they're so disappointing. Like they're like what 14th in the East.
I don't think it's his fault they've struggled.
He's not.
I think he's actually been better than he was last season.
Yeah.
I think his team's just not playing well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of just rewarding the winning for this
Yeah.
one, and I feel like Zach's numbers really aren't that much worse than Trey's.
I mean, honestly, it was kind of a debate whether you put DeRozan or Levine in the starting lineup to me. Because I think they're both worthy of it.
I think you could make a case for Zach or Trey as a starter.
It felt a little weird to have the Bulls backcourt be both of the starters to me. Like, have they been that good that they?
I mean, they are first in the. Or are they still first in the? They're first in the East. Yeah.
But I mean, the Nets are right there, and Harden didn't make the starting. I mean, but Harden hasn't been that good, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, in the West, I put Steph and Draymond, so I gotta go even with and they're the number one team in the West. So I gotta go. I
got
go
the one seeds getting two starters.
So I gave it to Zach and DeMar.
Yeah.
It's different. I gotta be a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Our teams have been kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate that there's been so many guys out. I feel like our teams could have been a little bit more unique from each other if there weren't so many injuries right now.
It's just a more shallow pool of players to choose from.
Yeah. It kind of felt like this last year too.
I feel like the reserves for these could be maybe a little different.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
You guys want us to do the reserves now? I think this actually might be where things get interesting as well.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, so my East reserves, I've got Zach LaVine, James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, Jared Allen, Bradley Beal, and LaMelo Ball.
Okay, mine's actually a little similar to that too.
I have a couple differences on mine.
Okay.
There's a little difference on mine. So I got Trae Young and James Harden for the guards, Tatum, Butler, and Jared Allen for the forwards, Bradley Beal for the wild card, and then I put Drew Holiday for the other wild card.
Okay. Instead of LaMelo?
Yeah.
You put him instead of Middleton?
No, instead of LaMelo.
No, but like you have him as the
instead
second.
Instead of Middleton.
No Middleton. Okay, that's interesting. All right, mine is I have Levine, Harden, Tatum and Brown, Jared Allen, LaMelo, and Bradley Beal. I think that's 7, right?
So you two are the same?
No, because I don't think we're...
Because he had Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I had Jaylen Brown.
Wait,
He had Jimmy.
Who
He had
are your
Jimmy.
7 again?
Levine, Harden, Jared Allen, Tatum, Brown, LaMelo, Beal.
So you didn't have Jimmy Butler?
Yeah, he's missed a bunch of games, but
so
you know,
Brown.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I might actually swap that now that I'm thinking about it again.
Yeah,
I was and the Heat are good.
Yeah,
they're a lot better when Jimmy plays too. So he's also got like Yeah, actually, let me change that. I'll put Jimmy in there. You guys have peer pressured me into it.
You have the same roster as I do.
Yeah, I guess so.
I debated. I was debating whether Drew should make it over Beal, but I ultimately went with Beal because he's putting up not great numbers, but his team is actually winning. I know they've fallen off from the beginning of the season, but and Drew's been good. Like he's elite defensively, like always, and he's putting up. He's been their second best player. I don't think Middleton's been as good as typically.
From what I've seen, he looks a bit more comfortable and aggressive offensively than he did last season. From what I've seen from the Bucks, I'm not watching every Bucks game, but that's just from what I've noticed.
Yeah, I put Drew in just because, like, the Bucks are like they're winning a lot of games, so it's like they're third in the East right now. So I feel like you kind of have to reward them a little bit for like how good they are. So
that's true.
That's kind of why
it does feel a little weird having them only get one All-Star.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So.
But then you don't have LaMelo in there.
I know.
The Hornets have been good.
I was debating with LaMelo because I kind of had him in there for a little bit, and I was kind of like comparing him with like Middleton and Drew Holiday and like even like Garland. I was even looking at Garland, like, you know, would I put him in there or not?
I debated whether I would put Garland or Jared Allen, but ultimately, more than anything, it might have just been the positional.
Yeah,
having a front court player.
Again, just so many guards that you can't really. There's not enough.
Yeah, and I don't know
if not enough guard spots.
Yeah. You could make a case that for the Cavs having 2 All-Stars, I guess, but
they've been really impressive.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be mad if you put him over Beal. Beal was honestly kind of like a maybe for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of debating with Beal too. Like, just he's not shooting that well. Like
his efficiency is down.
Like 28% from 3.
Yeah.
So it's like
in the East. There's also some guys that are typically in that conversation. Like Sabonis normally would be in it. It's not even injuries. His team just sucks.
Yeah.
He's actually been pretty good this year.
He's been good, but the Pacers have just been so bad.
Yeah.
Like Siakam, I think normally would be in that conversation.
I think Van Vliet could actually have a case as well.
I was strongly considering him over Beal, but I ultimately went with Beal.
I don't think the Raptors are good enough for me to put Van Vliet over Beal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like... I'm actually not so sure if I'm like super sold on my East reserves now that I'm thinking about it more. Yeah, I definitely think I would swap out. Yeah, I definitely think I'd swap out Jimmy for Jalen.
Oh yeah, you already said
I think
that.
I'd swap out Jimmy.
We have the
for
same
Jalen.
reserves.
Yeah.
But again, the front court depth is a little questionable in the East too. Not that Jared Allen's bad, but like, is he an All-Star caliber player? I don't know. Like, he just happens to be the best player in the Cavs.
I was thinking about Bam as well, but like he hasn't played enough.
I don't think he'll be healthy for the All-Star game anyway, will he?
But normally he would be a lock for the All-Star game.
Probably.
But and obviously like Kyrie, Ben Simmons, if those guys were healthy, they're probably in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Ben's healthy, but
So weird how things have changed. The East all of a sudden is kind of the more interesting conference now.
yeah, it is pretty strange.
Do we?
I mean, how long has it been since the East was better than the West?
Yeah.
It's been like 20 years.
Yeah.
It feels like.
Or at least it's better top to bottom, right? Mm-hmm. Like just in terms of its depth. It feels like there's just more good teams in the East than there are in the West this year.
Yeah. The top of the West, you could argue, is on par with, or maybe even better than the East. But
yeah. Well, I guess you compared like the Nets and the Bucks, and I guess the Bulls to the Warriors, Jazz, Suns.
And I think when the Heat are healthy, they could very well be in that conversation.
That's true.
Too.
I kind of feel like the Bulls are a little bit below those other teams. I know that the record says otherwise.
They're overachieving a little bit, probably. But
yeah. But who are the weak teams in the East? Like the Pistons and the
Magic.
That's it.
And I guess the Pacers.
Yeah, but I feel like they shouldn't even be weak. Like,
yeah, well,
the roster.
I mean, the Hawks are the next team.
Yeah,
right.
That's wild.
Which is crazy because they were just in the East Finals last year, and they're the next team. They're the next lowest team in the standings right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with them. They had some of their players were saying that they were like after we've achieved so much already. Like this feels so trivial.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to me though. It was the conference finals, and
these guys are so young. They're like in their early 20s, and they're already like, oh, we've already achieved so much. Like this is meaningless to us.
They need to shake it up.
Yeah,
I think. Or actually, should we talk about if they're too deep, right?
Yeah.
They almost feel like they have too many good players.
Okay, well, this is kind of a good segue.
Yeah.
I have a trade involving the Hawks. It's more benefiting another team, but it is a Hawks player. So this was, I guess, the second segment that we wanted to talk about. So we've all come up with some trade ideas that we think could help some of these contending teams make that push into like true playoff or championship contenders.
Or just bad teams offloading veterans they don't really need.
Just go into full rebuild tank mode and just get off contracts.
Get some assets.
Get draft capital, yeah. So, well, since we're talking about the Hawks, I'll start off. So, this is a trade that I've kind of talked about with you guys, but I think the Jazz, their biggest weakness right now is they just lack athletic wings. Like they're too small. As good as Royce O'Neal's been for them, he's 6'4".
He's really their only point of attack defender.
Yeah, like I don't know how much I trust Ingles and Bogdanovich to really lock down wings, unless Ingles guarding like Paul George or something.
Yeah. And then Conley and Donovan are just too small. They're too small.
Yeah.
So they're both 6'1" guards. So they just can't really. They're not physically capable of doing that.
So my trade is the Jazz get Cam Reddish from the Hawks. The Hawks just have too much. It's weird, but they have too much talent, and I think they need to offload some and either consolidate and get a star, which I think is possible. But this is like there's been rumors that they're interested in moving Cam for a first round pick. So this trade would send a first rounder from the Jazz back, and then you would have to include some salary filler as well. So I threw in like Udoka Azubuike, Oni, and then. Jared Allen would be the young player involved, so he's like.
Jared Butler?
Jared Butler, sorry.
Yeah, Jared Butler. We like Jared Butler out of Baylor. Yeah. We liked him maybe for the Warriors. He kind of slipped in the draft.
He did, yeah.
It's because of the health scare with him.
Yeah,
because he had like a heart issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he had a heart thing, but he's been cleared to play. So he just seems like kind of a steady player. I kind of like that. I think the Hawks. Guard depth has been a little worse than expected because Lou looks like he's just fallen off a cliff.
Yeah,
he looked really bad. I don't know. Maybe he's picked it up since I've last watched, but he looked really bad last time I saw the Hawks play.
Yeah, and the timing of this might be a little bit weird with DeAndre Hunter having I don't remember what the injury was, but he's going to be out for a while, right?
Yeah.
What were the Hawks getting in? It was Jared Butler.
It's just salary filler.
Salary filler?
So Jared Butler,
And then
Udoka
first round pick.
Azubuike, and Oni, and then a first rounder. Which that's really what they're interested in, is that first round pick. But it's just a way to get some extra draft capital that they could potentially use to make a bigger move.
Maybe they could like flip Gallo with the pick for something.
Yeah,
because Gallo has not been great either. They have so many wings, and it just seems like their wings don't know their roles.
I would say the big issue with this move is I don't know if the Jazz are going to be willing or able to pay Cam Reddish what he's probably going to be asking for when he hits free agency.
That's true.
So are they willing to take a flyer? They're not giving up a ton. Like a first rounder is obviously not cheap, but it's a way to get some young talent, like a really athletic wing who in theory can be like your second or third option if he can figure things out.
Yeah.
And he can be a lockdown defender.
He's already a good defender.
Yeah.
And he's a good shooter, too.
Yeah, so my issue with the Jazz, I just don't think they have a clear-cut move to go get another star. Like, unless they're going to move Gobert or something, but I don't think Gobert has the same value with other teams as he will, like, as the Jazz view him having.
Right.
So, and Conley's, like, I don't know how interested a team's going to... Like, he's in a good contract, but I just don't know how interested a team would be in him. So, unless you're going to move Jordan Clarkson or Bogdanovich, but this is a way where they aren't giving up any rotation pieces.
Yeah.
They give up one pick, but they get a guy who could potentially be a key piece.
Probably a late first anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Jeremy Grant has kind of been the guy people have been throwing out a lot of the time as like a trade target for the Jazz.
I just don't see an easy way to make that happen, because why would the Pistons want anything the Jazz have?
Why would they want... Well, it'd have to be Bogdanovich for salary purposes.
But then you have to reallocate, or you have to move Bogdanovich somewhere else. It just makes things really complicated. So this way they're not giving up the farm to go get a wing, but they could still get a guy with really high upside.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that trade. Yeah. I think that's... It seems like a relatively low-risk move.
It's kind of an around the edge of the roster sort of move, but I think it could potentially yield some...
But that might be all the Jazz need, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty good already, as is. And
and
they're not really lacking a lot on the roster.
In Atlanta, I just think there's some pecking order problems where there's too many guys who think that they're good enough to be the second option. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure Cam is one of those guys. And I think with good reason. I think he's talented enough to be. But he's not really going to get the true opportunity to do that. Like, you see John Collins, he only averages like 12 shot attempts. And I think he's way too good to only get that many shots. But there's too many guys that want to get theirs. It's a little bit like the Celtics, I think. Yeah. Back when they had Kyrie and Hayward and Marcus Morris and, that whole squad. Like, they had a really talented team, but they almost had too much talent.
Yeah, they had a pecking order problem.
So I think that it's a reasonable move for both sides. I don't know. Maybe the Hawks think they can get more for Cam, but I think it makes some sense.
What's your trade, Ryan?
Okay, so I went with a Pacers Miles Turner trade, but I think this one's a little different. I don't know if I've seen anyone
I've got a Miles Turner trade also. But let's hear what you got.
So I was kind of like looking around through the trade machine, looking for teams that like what teams would need a center, and I kind of saw the Hornets maybe as a team that could use a center. So I'm just saying the Pacers trade Miles Turner to the Hornets in exchange for Mason Plumlee, PJ Washington, and James Bouknight, and like maybe throw in like...
Okay, I kid you not, I almost made that exact trade.
You did?
Yeah. I was very close. I decided not to. I have a different Miles Turner trade.
Okay.
But I like the move. I like that.
I kind of like this move. Yeah. Like it kind of makes sense for both sides. Like because the Hornets, it's like it feels like they don't have enough right now, and it's like Miles Turner kind of gives them everything that they would want. It feels like because he's a legit center, like a starting caliber center. He's an elite rim protector for them, and then he can space the floor as well. So it's like because you got Oubre and Miles Bridges on the team. And it's like those two are guys that like you really want them getting to the rim, not like just sitting in the corner and shooting threes all day. So it's like
you kind of invert the offense, have your spacing.
Mm-hmm.
And so because like Miles Turner's biggest problem is like
although Oubre is third in the NBA in 3-pointers.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Like percentage or just
no? Like in makes. He's made the third most threes in the NBA this season.
That's actually pretty hard.
He's next up behind Steph and Buddy Hield.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Well, more shooting is not a bad thing. So
yeah.
But yeah, so because Miles Turner's problem is he's just kind of soft in the paint in offense, and if you've got like Miles Bridges and Oubre just kind of like getting into the paint and dunking constantly, it's like
and Hayward, he's a physical wing, like
it doesn't matter as much. And then you think about like the pick and roll with like
you can have a pick and pop with
pick and roll with LaMelo and Miles Turner could be really nice.
Yeah,
and then for the Pacers, they get Mason Plumlee, who's like. He's like a good backup center. Like, you can basically put him right behind Sabonis. Mm-hmm. So I think that makes some sense. PJ Washington is kind of, he's kind of a stretch 4, stretch 5 type player, but I think he's a little bit more of a 4 than he's more of a 4 than Miles Turner, obviously.
You could play him with Sabonis.
Yeah.
And he's younger.
And he's younger, right? Because like they're looking to get younger right now, right? Because they just like the Pacers just don't have a real means of getting like an actual star. They're just not a attractive like destination for stars.
Right.
You're saying people don't want to go to Indiana?
Nope.
Yeah. Well, you've been there before, haven't you?
It's
as dead as
it's pretty desolate.
It's as dead as it seems like it would be.
I think
right?
PJ kind of gives them some athleticism, right? I don't think they're like super athletic as a team, like just kind of looking over their guys.
Yeah.
Right,
and then you get Book Knight,
who like the Hornets just aren't using him.
Yeah, he's kind of the prize of the trade. Right?
I think he's the prize of the trade. And then if the Hornets need to throw in like an extra pick or something, but
yeah, I mean that seems like a fair value.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too.
I don't think you need picks. I mean, if you're gonna move LeVert, I feel like Book Knight might be the next closest approximation of LeVert, right?
That feels like a pretty good value for Turner, though. You're getting a couple young players.
Yep.
And then and then Plumlee's just salary filler, but he's not like terrible.
The thing I like about that is it isn't a full teardown of their roster. Like they could still try to push for wins because I mean they signed Rick Carlisle to a 4-year deal, I think. So I don't think he signed up knowing that like, oh, this is going to be a rebuild. I think he wants to actually contend for the playoffs.
I feel like the Pacers are sending mixed messages.
They are,
because like they're saying like they bring in Rick Carlisle. Right, who's like a win now coach, and they draft Chris Duarte, who's like the most win now draft prospect in 2021, right? And then now they're like, oh no, we want to trade everybody. Mm-hmm. So it just doesn't make any sense. They're just so incongruent with their decisions. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing.
No, I like that move though. I think it makes some sense for the Hornets.
Yeah.
You get a floor spacing big. They're I think one of their biggest issues is their defense is a little bit suspect.
Miles Turner would fix a lot, because it's like we had Oubre on the Warriors, and he was like he's a pretty good ball hawk, like just a guy you can put on an opposing ball handler. I think Miles Bridges is a pretty good defender. He's just physical.
He got the body for it.
He's got the body for
super athletic.
They're bad defensively though.
Yeah,
the Hornets.
But
Turner can help clean up that up. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like your perimeter guys can just kind of sell out and just like play more aggressive than they normally would because Miles Turner can just clean
They've
up
got
anything.
the backline defender. Yeah.
Well, and the thing I like about that is you kind of implement a Jazz like defensive scheme, except you have all of these athletes.
Yeah, you're way more athletic.
Miles Turner on the defensive end, so they can sell out a bit and they can recover back, and then you're funneling them into this elite shot blocking big.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then offensively, I mean, you just surround LaMelo with a bunch of spacing and athleticism.
Yeah,
because Miles Turner's super athletic.
You can play 5 out in that lineup in the starting lineup now.
Yeah, so I like that move a lot. And then for the Pacers, it's not a full on rebuild, but you get some nice young talent. So.
And Bridges and Oubre are guys that are gonna. Like, they're usually going to be out in the perimeter. Like, they're not going to just sit in the paint all day and crowd the space for Miles Turner. So maybe Turner can, do a little bit more in the paint.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Than he normally does with, the Pacers.
I think it makes sense. All right. My Miles Turner trade is kind of crazy, but I wanted to go a bit more unconventional with it. Okay. So, my trade is to send him to the Grizzlies. Because they seem kind of like they don't want Jaren Jackson to play the 5, right? Like, they're a little wishy-washy with it, right? Like, I feel like he should play the 5, but he also gets kind of bullied, right? So my idea was Miles Turner and Justin Holiday to the Grizzlies. And then the Pacers get Stevie Adams. Yeah, I'm calling him Stevie. Zaire Williams. And then, some picks. I don't know. I don't know if I love the trade. I just wanted to try something different.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess it would depend what picks the Pacers are getting back to make it worth it. Because Justin Holiday is, an underrated...
Yeah, he's a nice player.
I mean,
he's a nice player.
He's a really good...
I'm just strengthening our toughest matchup, the Warriors' toughest matchup in the West.
Yeah. No, but I think that's an interesting fit.
I think the Grizzlies would like that.
Yeah.
They would definitely love to have Miles Turner with.
Yeah, they had
Jackson.
more shooting, right?
Yeah,
more
I mean,
shooting around Ja.
you talk about a guard who you want to surround with spacing, like LaMelo. I mean, Ja's another prime candidate. Like, you want him cutting to the rim. You don't want him out in the perimeter shooting all the time, even if he's improved the shot.
Yeah. Yeah, another 3-and-D wing and Holiday, and then Turner. You know, it's weird because Turner and Jaren Jackson feel similar in that they're a little soft in the paint. That might be the worst rebounding team in the league, honestly. Jaren Jackson, and Miles Turner.
That would be a concern.
It's you have 2 7-footers out there, but they might be like, that's weird, right? That they could be like terrible rebounding, even though they have 2 7-footers. I don't know. I thought it might be kind of a fun one. So
yeah, that's interesting. I think the Grizzlies may have to throw in like a young piece to.
Yeah, no, I don't really see why the Pacers would want Steven Adams. He doesn't really fit there at all.
Maybe have to reroute him.
Yeah, he's also not even on an expiring contract.
But for the Grizzlies, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I just wanted to get him on. I just wanted to get him on the Grizzlies.
Yeah,
because I was looking around and my first instinct was Hornets, like Ryan said.
Yeah,
that was my first thought. But like, I felt like that was kind of like the one people would expect, and Ryan did that anyway. So
yeah. Okay. No, that's interesting. Very different. All right, I'll go into my second trade then. So, I also had the Hornets involved in a trade, but this is a Ben Simmons trade.
Oh.
So,
okay.
I've got Ben Simmons and Seth Curry going to the Hornets. And then I've got Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, and picks going to the Sixers.
Oh.
So here's my logic, right? In theory, putting LaMelo Ball and Ben Simmons sounds weird, right? Because they both need the ball in their hands. But you make Ben your secondary playmaker. You put him more in that short role. Let him play as the big. All of a sudden, you have like 2 of the most dynamic passers in the league on the same roster. You surround him with a bunch of shooting. Like you add Seth to that roster. Like you've got plenty of shooting on that team. And you're not getting rid of Hayward. Like that's a huge roster, right? But it's super dynamic. Like in theory, those 2 plus Hayward are all really good passing like guys that are over 6.
I thought you said Hayward was.
Sorry. Yeah, Hayward is in the trade. But so you have Ben, you have Seth, you have LaMelo, you have Bridges, you have Oubre. Like I think it's a super dynamic lineup.
That's like got to be the most athletic team in the league.
Yeah, and Ben gives them that defensive identity, right? You put the best perimeter defender in the league on that roster. All of a sudden, like. The defensive woes, I think, are kind of maybe not entirely gone, but
he can help with that for sure.
Yeah, he's just so dynamic.
So Ben Simmons and Seth to the Hornets, and then it was Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier,
and picks.
Okay.
Because I think you have to have picks, because otherwise the Sixers are pulling the trigger on that.
In that scenario, do the Hornets just like start small, so they just play Ben at the 5?
I think so.
Yeah,
and then they start Oubre.
I think you do, yeah.
Or I guess you could start PJ Washington.
Either or.
Yeah, I guess you could start PJ Washington.
With how well Oubre is playing off the bench, and I feel like Washington's kind of struggled coming off the bench, so I think you might start him. Okay. And then you bring Oubre off the bench.
Yeah.
And then from the Sixers standpoint, I know they've got 20 or 30 players that they want, and I don't think Rozier and Hayward are on that list, but
they could combine to have that sort of impact. Right?
I mean, I feel like Rozier in the pick and roll could be really nice with Embiid, and you get a playmaker in Hayward.
Hayward's nice.
Although,
like, he's not, he's probably not like an all-star, but like,
he's
about as close as you can get.
How close are Seth and Terry Rozier as players? Rozier's a better defender.
Mm-hmm.
They're both. Seth's a better shooter. Rozier's a good shooter, but Seth's
more of like a bucket getter.
Seth's definitely a better shooter. Yeah, Rozier's more of a scorer.
And that was the idea: is you just surround Embiid with more like playmaking.
Or creation.
Yeah.
More offensive creation.
And maybe you have that if Ben Simmons just plays, but he's not. So you get... I think Hayward is kind of the main piece you're getting, but Rozier's a nice guard, too. And I think he's still an improvement over Seth, even if he's not quite the shooter.
He's a better
He's still a good shooter, and he's a better defender.
He's a better defender. That's interesting.
Hayward's a solid defender. I think he's not like elite, but again, he's a pretty good shooter. He's a really good passer. Is a big wing.
I mean, I think the Sixers are already a good defensive team, as is like with Embiid and like Thibault and stuff.
Yeah, they're not ranked very high, but I feel like they should be good defensively.
Mm-hmm. And so
They could just find a way to
also
move
play-
Tobias Harris.
They do have Tobias, so that was like
Yeah.
the one thing where it's like, do you really want to play Hayward and Tobias together?
I feel like both of them are 4s.
Yeah.
And honestly, both Maxey and Rozier are both kind of small to play the 2.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a small backcourt and kind of a weird wing-forward combination with Hayward and Harris.
It is a bit weird, but I feel like they add a lot of scoring making this move.
Yeah.
Potentially, maybe it'd be crazy to move Tobias to your bench, but I don't know.
And will you start Thibault?
Yeah, maybe you start Thibault.
Or Danny Green?
Maybe you start Danny Green.
Hmm.
So, and I think if the Hornets didn't want to give up like picks, you could throw Book Knight in there because the Sixers have said that they wanted like young players plus picks. So since Book Knight doesn't
Or an
play,
All-Star.
or an All-Star, right? So you're not getting an All-Star, but you get 2 really nice rotation players, and then Book Knight could be that young like asset that you're getting as well. And then I don't know, maybe a pick. So I don't know like exactly how many picks you need to include.
Yeah.
But
I like it's a bit more unconventional than some of the other Ben trades I've heard. I like it better than like Cleveland, honestly. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of like a Cleveland trade.
yeah, Cleveland's kind of weird to me. But
Okay. You want to say
So
your next trade?
my second trade. So this one is a Jeremy Grant trade.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't do a Jeremy Grant trade.
Okay, so I think this one's a little different from. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where he's expected to go. So, so this one, Jeremy Grant, we send him to the Cavs.
okay.
That is a.
That
I
is
think
unique.
that's. I think that's a bit.
Okay.
I haven't heard that before.
Okay, so this one, so the Cavs get Jeremy Grant, and then the Pistons get Colin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen, and then probably like a pick or 2 or something.
Okay.
So I think the kind of the rationale behind it was like the Pistons, like we kind of talked about this before, but like the Pistons don't really have like that great of like young players on their team, like
Other than Cade,
I think
other than Cade.
I think their young talent is a little overrated outside of Cade.
And so and like they're kind of looking to move Jeremy Grant, but that's like kind of thinking about I don't know if there's like a huge amount of like young talent that's actually good that teams are really want to get rid of. Whereas Colin Sexton feels like one of the few that like the Cavs are actually looking to move, and he's like a young player that's like, you know, he has potential to be like a star. Like he's like a 20 point per game scorer, just a bucket getter. I think he kind of works with Cade just because Colin Sexton's undersized, but like Cade's he's much bigger. He's like a really big point guard, so it kind of balances that out a little bit. And then Markkanen, kind of a salary filler just because he's like being paid $14 million, but he's also kind of a young player where like I think on the Bulls like his first couple seasons he looked pretty nice on the Bulls, and then like Jim Boylan kind of like messed it up with like just didn't use him properly. I think like they just kind of turned him into a spot up like 3-point shooter, and he like I don't think Markkanen liked playing that. Like he kind of wants to like post up and like get in the mid range and stuff. And
I think
he's
more
got,
dynamic than that as a scorer.
Yeah, he's a bit more dynamic, and it's like you look at like the you know the front court for the Pistons. They don't really have anything in the front court other than like, you know, Sadiq Bey and like maybe Isaiah Stewart. So it's like, you know, Markkanen can be like their 5, and you know he gets kind of the freedom to do whatever he wants. Yeah.
I mean,
then
like, Sadiq and Stewart are like fine, but like
role players.
They're role players. I don't think they're really anything more than that.
You know, Markkanen, you're kind of taking a chance on him, but like, you know, he could potentially be like a really nice young player for them or something. And then Jeremy Grant, you know, like he's just like a 20 points per game scorer, right? He can be kind of like that third option on the team. So, and I figured like, you know, he's probably like a 3-4-ish type of player. So I think you can play him with like, you know, Mobley and Jared Allen.
That defensive line would be kind of nuts.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah. Like they have a really nice defensive lineup, and then
Okoro, Grant, Mobley, and Allen. The spacing's terrible, but that defensive line.
I mean, he's had a couple years where he's like,
you
know, shot well from the 3-point line.
He's having kind of a down year this year.
Well, but I think the big thing with him is he's just been the guy in Detroit.
Yeah.
When he was in Denver, he actually shot the 3 pretty well.
I think his last couple years in OKC,
he was shooting like 40% from three.
In OKC as well, yeah.
If you take him off ball a little more and you let him take better shots, I actually like that move a lot because if I'm the Pistons, like I don't know, maybe they can get a better return than that. But if I'm them, I think you just take as many swings as you can on high upside guys, and you hope that one or two of them hit. And you're like Markkanen and Sexton are both there. I think they have high upside. It's just you got to get them on the right.
The only thing for me is that Sexton means that Cade will have the ball less.
Yeah, which it, and it also means I don't know if you can play those two plus Killian Hayes.
I mean,
easiest solution: don't play Killian Hayes.
You just have him come off the bench or something.
Yeah, but it's like, do you really want your 7th pick from a year ago off the bench? That's the only thing where it's like, how ready are the Pistons to just throw Killian in the garbage?
Sheesh.
I don't know. So, but I actually like it because I think you just get because how often are you going to be able to get like young talented players like Markkanen and Sexton? Like, Grant's nice, but
and I mean they're basically just getting that for just using cap space.
Yeah.
Right? Because they just signed Grant as a free agent. So they can just acquire young talent for, like, basically just, like, using cap space.
And, maybe they have to... the Cavs throw in a pick or something, too. But I feel like the Cavs, even though they're talked about a lot more than they were last year, still probably aren't talked about enough with how good they've been. Considering that they're dealing with...
I feel like they have a chance to actually make some noise in the playoffs with how they're playing right now. So, like, adding a guy like Grant, like, maybe that gives you enough to
Well, and that's kind of felt like the position of need, right? Like
the wing, yeah.
Okoro's a really nice defender, but he's a guard. Like he's the size of a guard. He's not a wing. Like he's 6'5". Yeah. So if you're up against a bigger wing, I feel like he might struggle. But Jeremy Grant, on the other hand, I think he could do a great job. So I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Plus, it also keeps him away from a team like the Bulls, who are another team that's kind of been rumored that might try to make a trade for. You know, if I were Detroit and I saw like a Bulls trade package versus that Cavs one, I'd probably take the Bulls one if I were the Pistons.
Yeah, it depends.
What would the Bulls?
I would assume Kobe White's in there.
Pat Williams and Kobe White would probably be the deal. I would probably take the Bulls one.
But are they willing to move Pat Williams? I don't know if I would be. Like, I understand that they're trying to win now, but I don't know. To me, Jeremy Grant, he's a really good player, but he's not going to get any better. Whereas Pat Williams still has room to grow.
Yeah,
so that's my only thing.
Yeah, if Pat Williams was healthy, but he was like kind of maybe not as good offensively as you would like, then I think that might be a reason to do the trade. But because he hasn't played, it's a little tougher to do it, right?
Yeah, if I'm the Bulls, I'm willing to move Kobe White and picks, but I don't know how many picks they even have with all the moves that they made, but. Yeah. So I think that's an interesting one. I definitely haven't heard that thrown out there. Like the Cavs aren't really viewed as a trades destination, but they were the first team to make a trade, going and getting Rondo after Rubio tore the ACL. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I like that one.
I've actually got 2 more trades.
Okay.
So first one is Suns trade.
Okay.
So the Suns get Thad Young, and then the Spurs get Dario Saric, Jalen Smith, and a first-round pick.
Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward. I like that because Jalen Smith just isn't playing.
Yeah.
And the first-round pick is probably what the Sun or the Spurs are interested in.
That's just talent acquisition. Saric is just filler.
Yeah, he's just salary.
And he can't play. He can't play this year anyway for Phoenix. So
it feels
a little cold to trade him after tearing his ACL, but that's how this works.
Yeah,
it's a business. So yeah, I think that's a relatively straightforward one, but I think it makes sense, and I think that really shores up Phoenix's front court if they get Thad Young.
I mean, Thad Young is a guy who's kind of just been buried on like mediocre teams for a while now. But
he's a solid player. He's kind of like a baby Draymond. Like he has some similarities in skill set. He's a versatile, switchy defender, and he can't shoot. He can't shoot at all. He's a terrible shooter, but he's a good passer. He's a pretty good athlete.
I mean, do you remember that stat when it was like Thad Young is the first player to average 13 points, 6.2 rebounds, a steal and a half, 1 3 and 1.3 blocks since like Jordan or
they had him with like Jordan and LeBron and like Larry Bird or something.
Like
that was so funny.
Like, oh, this
that was so
guy's
funny.
Like all-time great.
It was a really convoluted way of proving that Thad Young is a good player, but Thad Young is a pretty good player.
Yeah, he is. I think that makes a lot of sense for the Suns because they're not really getting rid of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can overcome his inability to shoot because they have a ton of shooters on their team. So I like that move for
And
him.
he's just a hustle guy. He's going to give you effort on defense. Like, yeah, I think that's good. And he's a bigger wing. I think he's, 6'8"?
I think he'd play as a big for them rather than a wing. Like, I could see him playing as, like, some small ball 5, depending on...
That makes him super dynamic because now, I mean, their front guard rotation is kind of crazy. You got Ayton, JaVale, and Thad Young.
Yeah.
And even, like, Kaminsky's nice. And, like, Cam Johnson might play some...
They have They have, like, every possible look you could throw at a team in their front court now.
He gives them a lot of, like, actually some more different looks, which I like.
All right. My other move was a Lakers trade. I've thrown this one out there before. It's Eric Gordon for Horton Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, and then Bazemore is just there for money. And then, I don't know, the 2035 first-round pick that the Lakers can trade. I don't know when they can trade a first-round pick, but whatever pick they can trade.
Yeah. I like that move. I mean, they kind of screwed up not getting Buddy Hield in the offseason, so...
Or DeRozan.
With how DeRozan's been looking. But... You know, Eric Gordon's been sort of forgotten since he's on the Rockets, but he's quietly having a really good season for them.
Yeah. The only issue, though, when I tried to do this in the trade machine, it said Horton Tucker isn't eligible to be traded.
This season or until...
It said, like, not for, like... I want to say it said in, like, March. So, like, I'm a little unclear on if they can trade him this season, because I keep hearing people... say they should trade him this season, and I'm not like 100% sure. Because I think March would be after the trade deadline.
That's weird.
So
he signed an extension in the offseason, right?
So I thought that he was eligible to be traded at some point this season.
That's actually really big if they can't move him.
Yeah.
Because that's the one piece that they would be able to move, because Westbrook's unmovable.
Yeah.
But assuming they can trade him, this works financially for both teams.
And then, for the Rockets, it's just you're moving a veteran player to get some young talent.
Yeah.
I mean, Horton Tucker is one of the top young players in the league, so...
If he has Bleacher Report, he is.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. And then, if... I don't know what picks the Lakers have left, but you throw in, like, if they have a first or maybe a second or something.
I know that Lakers fans seem to kind of have delusions that they could make some big move. They can't. This is the type of
Tucker is their next star.
Like this is the type of move that this is the type of move that they can make.
Well, this is not the worst move they can make.
No, but this is what happens when you go all in and you trade for Westbrook,
and it doesn't work out.
You trade away all your depth and you go get Westbrook, and it doesn't work out. And now they've got to settle with this move. But.
Now, I will say, if Nunn comes back and plays well, there's less reason to do this.
That's true. We'll see. My only issue with Nunn is he just feels like another scorer when the team is already full of scorers who can't defend.
And they need a shooter.
Yeah, right? They need a shooter. So and that's Eric Gordon. Like, he won the 3-point contest. The dude's
Gordon's a shooter who can score.
Yeah,
Nunn is a scorer that can shoot.
Yeah, it's very different.
It
sounds similar, but it's not.
Yeah.
So I like that move. It's again one of it's not as big of a move. I'm sure Laker fans would be disappointed because it's not that huge blockbuster move that shakes things up. But I think that the Lakers needed to do more moves like that in the offseason to really shore up their rotation.
If they had made moves like that instead of the Russ trade, they would be a better team right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that's pretty much all we wanted to talk about, right?
Yeah.
So this has been episode 1 of Garbage Time. Stay tuned for next week for another episode.
Yep. Thanks.